Welcome, Simsbury sports fans, to summer 2023 edition of Inside Trojan Football, where we provide the viewers with a closer look at the Simsbury High School football program throughout their seasons. As a reminder, Simsbury Community Television has gone through a rebranding and is now Simsbury Community Media, SCM. This transition has come along with some exciting enhancements and improvements in the set, productions, and the entire programs. I am Roger Coombes, and as always with me today is Dave Masters, head football coach approaching his 9th year with the Simsbury Trojans after many seasons as an assistant coach. In our show, Coach will discuss the off-season activities of the program. We will review the 2022 season and then look forward to the 2023 season. We also have about 8 minutes of highlight film of the 2022 season that was put together by friend of Trojan Gridiron, John Helmkamp. Thank you as always, John. All right, well, Coach Masters, here we are, your 30th year coaching high school football.
Well, not a day over 30.
You started when you were 11 or 12.
I started real early.
Going back to Hall High School, is that where you first started?
Yeah, out of Springfield, and then I went to, got my job in West Hartford, and then the following year, I started coaching football there.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And this is your 9th season at the helm of the Trojans.
Yeah.
How many as an assistant coach?
I started coaching as an assistant with Joe in 03. So more like not full-time because my children were born, and so I just kind of eased back into it after I left Hall. So, 03 and then 04 on staff officially, and then went from there. But
okay,
yeah.
Wow, I didn't know you were with Coach Grace.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
From Joe to Jeff to,
To you. Yeah, that's awesome. Joe he's a dear friend of mine. He was my 7th, 8th grade teacher.
Yeah. I had some good mentors, Joe being one of them. The guy at Hall that was before him, Jake Atone, they actually, the Weathersfield field's named after his father, but he also coached at Plymouth State. So I had some good guys to learn.
Did you ever meet Easy Ed Lowndes?
I have met him, but not like through football, not necessarily.
No. Yeah, he was football coach for quite a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we got some changes with your assistants.
Yeah.
You got a great crew. You got about 22 coaches that help out.
Yeah, I mean, at various levels, but there's the core, and a lot of those same guys have helped from the very beginning. But part of the process that I enjoy is having, former players that come back for sure, like Christian Kylide, who was a lineman for me when I was coaching line there, and then went on to Union. He's a 3-time all-conference kid when I was coaching him here at Simsbury, and then he went to play at Union, and now he's back in the area. So I kind of roped him in, and he took over the offensive line. He kind of helped out there last year, and now he's kind of taken what we call the roach, but the
it's
offensive
job.
line. Yeah, it's a huge job, and it doesn't, went from me to Jeff Wilkins, who was another player of mine. See, when you get 30 years in, you have a lot of, you have a lot of a pool of guys that could maybe help and want to coach you, and you're connected to. So I like to have those guys because they kind of know how I feel. Former players and stuff, and if they can, anyone who wants to come back and, as a former player, I'll have them back.
You got a lot of former players with Blair and Robbie.
I mean, I would forget, going through them, but there's Rob Addis and Zach Gilbert's helping. Colby Chase is going to do the receivers. You've got Christian, of course. Ralph Gilliard's on his way back from North Carolina to come back and join us. I think there's probably even more I can't even think of right now.
Oh, your DQ.
Oh, Fury and Tim Fogarty,
Fogs,
those guys, like that's kind of, and then we have a good mix of guys that aren't, and I think that's a good blend, like, and it as part of my growth process as a coach, like I have the program and it's for the players, but also, I kind of see a role now as connecting like my 20-year-olds to each other. I got, Steve Hamill, who was a star at Southington, is now, become really good friends with Blair, and, like it's, the coaching circle kind of is ever growing, and that's fun for me to see develop too, as well. They all go on and play golf together, and
that's awesome.
Like that's good stuff,
for sure.
That builds a football family at a different level too. You know what I mean? If they're connected, the kids are connected, they feed off that,
Yep. And I think the players like the younger coaches too.
Yeah.
that relate to them, and they know they wore that uniform.
Yeah.
And I think that's also
that
very
definitely helps. There's nothing I like more than having a former, referring to someone, well, he's a former Trojan, you went through this.
Yep.
And there's also, you can say they can give their experience to it, what has worked, what hasn't worked, things like that.
That's
It's always good to have those guys around. Ed Mateo too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can go down the list.
Sure. And Nicky Malcott, he's going to take over.
Yeah, Malqui is going to take over. Yeah, I know. It's hard to say.
Nick.
No, he's going to take over. But we knew that Chase was leaving. We knew Moose was leaving, so we prepped for that. I mean, he had goals to become that. He works in East Hartford, and he applied to get that job. He didn't get that job, so it's kind of bummed. It kind of screwed up his path a little bit. But so he's Malqui has been kind of ready to take on that role, and so he's done a really good job of not only taking what we had and not disrupting it and blowing it up, so we're going backwards. He's added some pieces to it. We really looked hard at what we could do to make it better and really put his own stamp on stuff. So he's really, stepped up, done a really good job, but he was ready for it. He's been ready for it. And Malqui's been a guy who I've had and kind of targeted as a guy who's, I thought, could do a lot of different things. He's coached every position. Like I had him on the line. I had him at receivers. I've had him running the defense. I've had him all over the place. So those are the kind of guys that would, that have a lot of experience at other positions, can really, understand the game as a whole.
Sure.
And I think really add to it,
That's amazing when you think about 22 coaches for high school football. In comparison to baseball, there's like 3 or 4 coaches. Basketball, varsity, a couple assistants at JV, but it's just so different than any others.
Well, we prioritize that, and I know everyone would love to have that, but we figure out a way to make that work. And I a lot of that is like ultimately it kind of falls on my shoulders to organize, but ultimately I'm pretty flexible. Like if you have to miss a day, then we work our schedule around that. We'll get into it a little later about, I'm sure you'll have some question about two-platoon, but that is a little trickier because you need all your coaches there all the time. So some of that flexibility has had to logistically be planned out. I mean, that's kind of what my job is, anymore, is running the program. And part of that piece is making sure the coaches are in the right areas and, we have everything covered, and we're not, I'm not big into sacrificing some piece just to make it convenient. So we really try hard to make sure that the schedule's lined up. Like I have my calendar done through December.
I saw
every
those.
single day. But it evolves and it changes. But you have that template, and same thing with coaches. So allowing them to have some flexibility, getting back to that, kind of keeps them on board, I think. And ultimately, even though it seems unstable sometimes, ultimately gives it stability because they're there and we can count on them with their days. So I think that's kind of like the magic. So that having a lot of coaches is really what is, I think, the most beneficial thing for our program.
That's huge. And a lot of that goes to you, Dave. What a great job you do, and have them all part of the program.
Well, yeah.
The family.
Right. And that's always been the priority, as you know. Like, we're going to win and lose football games, but we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it, where we're teaching a million different things at the same time. So we think bigger picture a lot of times, or at least we try to.
So now lifts 4 times a week since December.
Well, 3 since December. So in the off season in school, they go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right after school. And we open that. And if they're playing another sport, they play their other sport. I call it, opportunity and then requirement. Very few things are required off season. We provide an opportunity. We open the weight room, and they take advantage of it.
I see.
But if they're in another sport, they should be at the other sport. If they're not, they should be lifting because it helps them with the next sport, whatever they're doing.
Absolutely.
So we have those, and anything that we do in the off season generally is an opportunity. But we do have our leadership stuff, and that's kind of, you're going to be a captain, you have to do that. That's, I would guess, a requirement. You try and do that stuff, but. So lift, and then now we're in summer lift, and that's kicked up. Now it's 4 days, It's 9:30 to 11:30, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
And that weight room, that Garrity weight room is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. It got a little reformatted to make room because we have, at this point, I think there's over 100 kids in there, for those 2 hours, and we have to structure a little bit differently because there's so many kids in there.
Wow. And some of your players, I went to the senior scholarship awards, and Charlie walks by and Garrett. Those guys are big. The pictures of your 7-on-7 at West Point, every player is just, those guys
Well, they do a good job
strong.
of hard work. I mean, I think that ultimately the only thing you can do to prepare for football is a physical sport, is prepare physically. So I think they have committed to that. I think that's I think that's definitely something that we've seen grown over the years.
Yeah.
Even since an assistant, I think it's just, we emphasize it all the time. I have this little daily app. It's called Remind, and weight room's open at 2:20, and then I'll send them a little picture. But it's a constant.
Wow.
Like, it's annoying. I'm sure. I get annoyed, but I never end, and it never ends. And their unit leaders text them and that stuff. So we just make it a priority.
The Baylor basketball team won the NCAA tournament in 2021, and apparently a lot of the guys on the hoop team at Baylor are friends with the football players. And the football players started saying, "You guys should work out. Come work out with us." And they're like, "Oh, we don't do that. It's for football." Well, fast forward, the basketball players started to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They became so much better defensively, their endurance, and they end up winning the national
And also
championship.
protects you, injury-wise as much as you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're strong physically, then you have a tendency to be, if something, you do roll your ankle, you have more to prevent it from getting too. So there's lots of factors into it. You just have to make it an emphasis. And I think that most teams anymore put an emphasis on it because they see the benefit to the end.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Now, your coaches, your leadership meetings, those are for all players each
Yeah,
month?
you can do, so from December to until the whole off season, we have one meeting a month, and everyone's invited. And it's a curriculum. It's a leadership curriculum that we've developed over the years, and it instills, core values and we go through scenarios and how to be a leader and what it takes to be a leader and what makes a good leader and what makes a bad leader. And we use examples, and we invite everyone to join us. So we generally this off season's been extraordinary, like 60 kids per meeting. And then the captains, applicants, they have to go. That's a requirement. Mm-hmm. So if you want to be a captain in the Simsbury football program, you have to attend those, before you can do that. But usually we would have that leadership trip, we take in the summer as a culminating event. So they go every meetings, and then we have that event. But in the season, we roll that in, and then every Tuesday we have a leadership meeting after practice where we rehash the stuff that we covered in the summer for the whole team.
I'm sure. So it's more than just football too, isn't it? The leadership.
We don't even. You mean
the leadership meetings?
It's not. It's only football players.
No, I mean, but you talk more about not just on
we
the
don't even
stuff.
really talk about football.
Right. It's just in life in general and how to handle yourself as a
almost
young man.
in any kind of situation.
Yes.
It's really. Yep. I mean, football's the backdrop, but it's not it's not the focus.
Sure. Now, what are the coaches' clinics? Boston, Atlantic City, Newport, UConn.
Well, the off season, we call it clinic season. So as soon as, January rolls around, there's clinics all over the country for football coaches. I think it's unique. There was one for baseball when I was coaching baseball. I used to go to every year, but they're not as numerous as football. And, there's a set of Glacier clinics. There's a set of, like, you can go to UConn. I spent a week at UConn, and they invite you to do that, and they go through. Football's ultimately very complicated in terms of the X and O's pieces, and there'll be sessions on all of those, and you can meet coaches, connect with coaches from all over the country, and it's just more like I would say professional development for coaches. Mm-hmm. I just think football probably does it a lot more and a lot more often. For the staff, we pretty much are gone every weekend in February, March at a different place.
Wow.
We travel up and stay in hotels for the weekend. They'll run, different sessions. So you can, there's great coaches out there, and they present, how they do things.
And they want to share with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an ever changing, sport. So that's kind of why.
And that's a little recruiting tool for them a bit, because they'll get to know high school coaches in the area.
They definitely get to know.
Yeah. That's nice. Now, you got the spring and summer. You got a lot of neat stuff with the passing league. West Point, you were just there this past weekend. Why don't you talk us a little bit about, the passing league, West Point.
Yeah.
You got the Sheehan passing league.
Yeah.
And the lineman challenge, which is
Yeah.
good. Get the big guys
We
involved.
spend a lot of time on developing. I mean, really, you're limited as to what you can do, and we can't really coach that much. But when we go to West Point, it's a tournament. I like to bring the kids down there. We brought like 40 kids down, and it's a 7-on-7. So your receivers, your running backs, and your quarterback go against another team's linebackers and D-backs. And it's just pass stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's rules for it. There's like a little competition. And so we go to West Point. It's held on the campus, which I think is important for the kids to see.
that
It
place.
also, and we talked to them a little bit about what West Point is and, what kind of school it
Great
is.
exposure for those
Great
guys.
exposure, and it connects them to something that they may not normally do, which is what I like going there for. I also like going there because we don't see any teams that we would normally.
Right.
So in our, when we do a passing league in the spring, it's very casual, and the kids basically, kids playing against kids on the turf. We go and watch them, but we set them up, and then they'll play. Like this year, we went to Enfield a couple times. The Enfield came here in Ellington.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the summer, we do a passing league at Sheehan High School, which is more of the teams that we normally see: Southingtons, New Britons, Maloney's, and it's the same setup.
Sure.
But there's very few things for linemen. So, in the summer, they have lineman challenges off to the side, and schools compete in like tug of war and like kind of, tests of strength and athleticism for the linemen, and they love it.
And builds camaraderie for the linemen.
Oh yeah, it's great. And we did it
That's-
at West Point too. Last year we won the whole competition. This year, I think second or third. I can't remember what it was, but it's good. They compete individually, they compete as teams, and it's fun, and they have fun at that. I mean, I'm not sure how applicable it is to football stuff, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point.
Linemen need some love.
And then really, to be honest, the passing league stuff is less about the football because it's a little modified, and more about connecting them all summer.
Sure.
They got to take a road trip. They go out to Chick-fil-A after.
Early road trip.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So
You guys met at like 6 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, for West Point,
West
yeah.
Point,
West
yeah.
Point, we left at 5:30.
5:30.
Yeah.
Wow.
But in the summer, it's at night. They drive down and get rides, and then they come back together and stuff. It's fun.
Yeah.
The summer passing league is more like, just for fun. We compete and we try to do well, but it's more or less connecting them.
That's awesome. Now you got the summer youth camp going right now. It just
Right
started
now, yeah.
yesterday, right?
Yeah, so we had lifting
June
in the
19th.
morning for the first day, and then at night we have it. So we run it a camp. This is, I think, the 8th year we've done it.
What ages?
In 2nd grade through 8th.
Wow.
Yeah, and it again, I don't think we're turning anyone into the world's greatest football player, but it's a way to connect. Like we had, I think, 25 of the high school players there. We had 8 or 9 coaches come, and there was like 60 kids from those age groups, and we break them into age groups. We connect, have fun, and play. We have some structured at the beginning where they're learning positions, and then learning how to safely tackle and stuff, and then they play games.
No pads or
No, anything like that. There's no contact.
no
Yeah.
contact.
It's mostly and I mean, really anymore, there's not much contact in high school practices. A lot of that stuff is saved for games.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the Trojan flag football. Tell us about that. You have that in July.
That's Wednesday nights. Yeah. These are things that I started the camp, the second year I was coaching. And then during COVID, we kind of started the flag league as an activity to do something in the summer. Because I think this is the 3rd year or 4th year. We're doing probably 3rd, whatever. I can't do the math real quick. But so the flag league is the kids sign up. They come, they break up by age groups, and the high school players act as their head coaches against each other and with the kids. And then my coaches come and act as refs, and we just run games on
that's good.
on Wednesday night. It's casual.
Yeah.
It's not, official anything, but I think it's good exposure. And I think that helps, let parents see that football is not the safety risk that they may think it is. I think it allows them to understand that there's a lot of emphasis on the safety of the game, and I think it gives kids exposure to it, connects the young kids to the high school kids, so they see them in the store. They come to the games on Friday night. I always think that's good. Or coaches. I was just looking at last night's camp, how many of these like walking around for the high school kids. They're all kids that went through the camp at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a unique thing, and I think it helps build the
neat.
program. I think that's one of the reasons
sure.
we have 150 kids in the program now.
That's the feeder, in addition to the Simsbury Youth Football.
Well, and they're doing a great job too. I think the Gavin Wentworth and the youth guys are doing a really good job of connecting. All the pieces are lining up, for that stuff, and
That's
it's a
awesome.
good transition. Yeah,
That's great. And then last part of this piece is the overnight camp. You're headed to Kent.
Yeah.
And that's in August, right before you start.
That's not a new thing for the program because we used to do that with Joe, but it's a new thing for us. Been trying to find a place to go to where we're going to go for 3 nights. We're going to leave the very first day of football practice. We're going to go to Kent, and it's an overnight camp. So normal during the summer, it's normal business is an overnight camp for girls and boys.
I see.
But when the off season happens, they rent it out to groups. So we're coming in Monday through Wednesday. Greenwich football's coming in Wednesday to Friday.
Wow.
And that's big enough space where you could have 2 teams. But we're going to have one, side of campus, and they'll stay in bunks with their unit. So the linebackers will stay with their linebacker.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
You know what that reminds me of? My favorite movie of all time, Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
he
not
took
that
them
far,
to camp.
Yeah. So, and that's not an unusual thing for football to do. It's very common. So we'll wake up early, practice, breakfast, practice, lunch, lots of playtime too. We're not going down there, to really
crush
run
them.
them around. That's not the idea.
Yeah.
The idea, again, is to connect them and to bring about some things.
You're not going to be like Coach Boone and take them out for a run at night.
Well, Coach Masters doesn't run. First of all, they're all set because Coach Masters is running anywhere. I'll tell you that right now.
That's great. And you'll see the defending Class double L champ, Greenwich, down there.
Yeah, we'll be passing, but I looked for a while at what camps and what people did for camps and price point, and I didn't want, there's all those factors.
Sure.
We needed a right facility to go because we're a big program. I didn't want to cram into anything, so we found the fit there. So we'll be transitioning and passing by.
Well, that's excellent. Well, that's a busy off season, Coach Masters. It's no rest for the wicked, you guys.
Yeah, I think that's just part of the deal anymore. And to be honest, it's probably overdone to some degree, but if it's kind of the same thing, everyone's doing it. So if you're not doing it, what's... You
got some options in there. You're not holding the fire to
No,
anybody.
I really don't. And I find that, if you miss, you miss. You go on, I had somebody say, well, we want to go on vacation. I go on as many vacations as you want to. None of that stuff. It's just opportunities. Yes. And if you want to do it, it's there for you. And most, awesome. Families want the kids to be active, and most kids want to be active.
Good
structure. And I feel like the more the opportunities you give them, it's better, for them.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, that wraps up 2023 off season. Now we'll get into the 2022 season. All right. Well, Coach, let's talk about 2022. I love this part where you guys...
The drone stuff was new. Well, you can't use it during a game, and
yes,
kids like it, and Coach Hamill likes playing with it. So he took a lot of drone video.
Here's Connor.
Connor's always going to be one of those games, just like Hall, pretty much, where lots of rivalry. Garrett Dejanay, who's an all-conference kid for us, had numbers for All-State, but there were a lot of people that had All-State numbers at his position. So it was tricky to get him in there. It's tricky to get anyone at All-State for football.
That's number 45.
Yeah, 45.
He has a great
sack, and then he had a block, and all kinds.
He blocked out punt and he recovered himself.
He's did that a couple times. It's not. That's Daniel Sullivan, who's going to go play in college as well for that. He's actually going to go to the same school his sister went to.
Oh, nice.
But and. So, this game was the Connor Hall games are always important to us. They're already on our calendar marked for next year.
You're good buddies with all the coaches.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, and it's great. We hang out, most of the time. That's Elijah Love, who he's a senior that we'll miss. He kind of rose and did a really good job last year for us at that position for sure. And that's another senior that, that kind of is going to be missed. So we're really, we have a lot of seniors coming back, but also there's a lot of guys that we have to replace, like Patrick, who just ran that, and, or Charlie that just ran that, and he'll be replaced with Patrick Matizak, who did it. There's E-Love again doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So Patrick's, role to fill Charlie's shoes, he had an opportunity to do that a little bit last year because Charlie ended up getting hurt a bit. And I think we're actually going to see, in this, if I'm thinking right.
Yeah, he's
Patrick
Matizak. Yeah, he plays in the Newington game.
Yeah. So Norwalk is one of those alliance games, not in our league that we get, that we play this year. And so for our schedule next year, the alliance games are not the same. So we will not play Norwalk again. That'll be different. Norwalk was a dominant team the year before. This year, this year right here, they struggled a little bit, to get things going. They lost their coach, but that kid number 8 was a pretty dominant player.
This Noble had a great season.
Noble is, a 4.3 40 kid, track star, and he's actually going to go to UConn.
He broke some track records this spring.
Not this spring, I think last year.
Okay.
He was tight. Indoor he did.
Okay.
But the indoor season took a toll on his body, so he didn't do much outdoor track wise in terms of that stuff. And of course, there's Gary. He made plays all year, to be honest with you. He got a Walter Camp Player of the Game. He did a lot of good stuff at that position.
Is that Swell right there?
Big Swell. Yeah. So we had a very strong defensive line.
There's Gags.
The Noble was just flat fast. He had that speed.
When he broke a couple runs, I'd say, "Gag gone."
He's
gone.
We struggled a little bit, in terms of execution, on the offensive line, mostly just experience. But those things, it's tough to get a running game. I would say probably last year was. In our 8, since I guess 8 years that I was the head coach, we struggled to get the running game going much. We didn't really have a lot of success getting that going for a number or a variety of reasons. But
you held these guys to 6 points.
Well, the defense, we can, and they had some good players too. There's Mitch, who's coming back next year.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
He'll be one of those kids that'll make an impact.
Yeah.
And, he'll be a kid that can be valuable at 2 positions.
And Jacob's coming back.
Right? Or Jacob's coming back, yeah.
Isabel?
Yep, he's coming back.
That'll be nice.
Yep. He was at West Point, was working hard today,
He got into the end zone a couple of times, so he knows how that feels. I like that.
And then you get your first real glimpse of Boston, who had a really good season too.
All league.
Yep, all kinds.
Here's you at Manchester.
Yep. We've had lots of success at Manchester, over the last couple of years. There's certain teams that...
I love this. Oh, they all count for 3.
It doesn't really matter how it goes through.
No, it doesn't.
Flashback to the Hall, flashback to that Hall game in 2019. The overtime game where it clears by an inch, doesn't matter.
Right.
So yeah, getting back Manchester, we feel comfortable there and we play well. But that's another team that's off our schedule for next year. They were on, they're off, they're on, they're off.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that factor into our schedule, how it develops. You're always going to have certain teams, but even at the beginning of this off season, our first schedule didn't have Hall or Connard on it, and then that was the first draft, and then so magically that changed.
Yeah.
That's the story for another day, but how the schedule is made still confuses me after 30 years.
Interesting. That's all out of CIAC, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. They try to I don't know what the formula is. I can't figure it out. So, there are lots of seniors on the field right now as I'm looking through it that'll have to be replaced. But I also see a lot of guys that we expect to make a difference. Certainly this kind of speed doesn't come around every day. I mean, we don't want to diminish that because that's hard to replace. So
sure,
we'll find different pieces to do that. And that's generally what we do every year, see what we have, evaluate that, and then build things around it. Charlie was a good athlete.
He was
kind of out of position, if we're being honest,
Yeah.
He really, he played quarterback because we needed him to play quarterback, but he's probably more suited as a receiver.
As a receiver?
Yeah.
I thought he might be running back.
Yep. And that's Mitch, of course.
That's a great play, right?
I always loved the fact that he held that football up.
There's at Newington. That was a tough. There's
Well, yeah, Newington was
They're carried again.
yeah, Newington was a tough game for us.
It was.
And looking back, we outplayed that team.
Lost by
until the
three.
until the end, and that's not anyway. That's a coaching thing for us. We have to get our kids to finish that game. We came out of half and ran a different formation, and caught them off guard, and of course Austin scored on that.
That's one of Jackson's passing yards there.
Yeah.
And, there's Jackson Madison.
Yeah.
Back for next year.
Or Patrick.
Patrick.
His brother. Yeah. So Patrick will take the helm as QB1, and he'll take it as a junior. So he played, got into this game as a sophomore.
Yeah.
I think his game against East Hartford is the one where he actually ended up breaking the school record.
Mm-hmm.
I told my son about that, I said,
he broke Jackson's.
Yeah,
record. Jackson.
that was fun for him. And I appreciate that. That was all good. But
Yeah.
he's got 2 years, and he's a talented kid. We expect that. It's
That's
nice to have a
awesome.
2-year
Oh,
quarterback.
you haven't had that in a long time. All right. Well, that's a nice recap, Coach, of 2022. Now let's move into 2023, where your head's been for the last since December 1st or so.
Well, it has been, but we've also spent a good chunk of that. And, when I was just thinking about what I had said earlier about how we kind of moved on right away, but we don't move on. That's not exactly true. Like, we spend a lot of time in what we call self-scout period, and we evaluated every single player. We evaluated every single coach. We evaluated all our plays. I think, we printed out, I think it was 75 pages long of data in what we did, how we did it, and what plays did we call, and did we call the same play, and did we, what are our tendencies? So we reevaluated and re-upped particularly since we have a new OC. So we thought we'd kind of really take a deep dive in 2022 and pull the good, bad, and the ugly out of it, and then see where to go from there. So really, we moved on to 23, but we pulled a lot of information, more so than we ever have.
Interesting.
I think when you have a season where it didn't meet your expectations, you have to really look at why it didn't meet your expectations, and what are you going to do different to make sure that you can reach that. I mean, we came to the conclusion that we did a lot of good stuff. We just didn't execute all the time, and then we did get a little too predictable, I would say.
Nice.
And when you look at yourself that way, you find out where you have some weaknesses.
And that's what's good about looking at those games and all those points to try to change up things a little bit on the offensive side of the ball, mostly.
Yeah. We struggled on defense getting off the field when we needed to. We struggled on offense staying on the field when we needed to. So our drives were too short on both sides, or too short on offense, and our defensive drives were too long. So for lots of reasons, I mean, there's a million.
And your schedule's tough, Dave. I analyzed it more than you probably want to, but of your losses for our state tournament teams, Maloney, defending champion Double L, goes to the finals. North Haven wins Class Double M. Alby's tough Southington. Glastonbury ends up getting to the semifinal. Double L loses to Greenwich, the eventual champion.
Yeah.
So your schedule is tough, Dave. You guys play big schools.
Well, the North Haven, they run a machine down there, and they run a different kind of offense than just about everybody. So we tried to prepare for them. We went to Torrington, who runs a similar offense. But I tell you, you step on the field in North Haven, and there's something in the water down there. There's some big boys.
Yeah.
They were tough. I've been, in my 30 years of coaching, I have rarely felt like we didn't have any answers to stuff. So
interesting.
yeah.
And they're an MM school. So
yeah, that's my fault. I didn't have them prepared well enough for that. And
tough opening game.
It was a tough opening game, but we bounced back from that. Like I thought we recovered from that and moved on from that, because I think Norwalk was the next game or something around it. But by that time I felt like we had kind of recovered, but it was something different. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And this year, no lighten up, really. You got another tough schedule. Now, you got like 3 or 4 preseason outings. Is that typical, that many?
Yeah, we have the same kind of scrimmage schedule. You can scrimmage the first Wednesday. Well, I don't know what other people do, but we scrimmage the first Wednesday after the first full week of practice. Then we followed up with like a jamboree schedule on the Saturday. We always scrimmage the Weathersfield, and then we're adding a couple teams to that.
Farmington and Torrington, yeah.
And then on Saturday.
That's when you get back from your cat trip.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then this is Cheshire's coming up, Westfield's Massachusetts is coming, and then Norwalk's coming for that. That'll be a good Saturday one. And then the last scrimmage is with Platt. We've been doing that for a bunch of years, and that's your game scrimmage. And we don't necessarily play. We're not worrying about what we do in that, like X's and O's wise. We're doing our game systems and trying to run through stuff.
Nice.
It's kind of a final, performance, so to speak, to make sure that we're ready for the following week for games.
Sure.
Because there's only 10 games, and you don't get one back if you know, if your systems are failing. So we try to.
And you got to try to win probably 6 to 7 games to get into the playoffs.
It feels like in football you got to win everything.
Yeah.
It's not like, you can't win 40% of your games and get in. You gotta win a lot of games.
Which is what baseball and basketball.
Yeah. So you have to win them.
It's real tough. It's similar to college football.
A loss hurts.
Yeah.
Any loss hurts your chances for sure. Yeah.
And then you're in season. You got Fairfield Ludlow right out of the gate, first game of the season, down at home.
Yeah, we're
September 8th.
That's the good news about the schools that we're playing that are in the Alliance. They're far away, but they have to come here to us. So that's the one positive sign. I mean, I like playing. I don't think anyone on the staff or the kids are like, oh, our schedule's so hard. And that's not the attitude that we like to take.
Sure.
Because we if you want, to your point, if we get in the playoffs, we're going to want to have some experience in playing those great teams. So I think we're ready for it. I do like not having to get on a bus and go down to Fairfield. I don't really want to do that. So that was good.
And then you got Stanford. They're coming up here to Simsbury. So.
Yeah, and we know very little about either of those teams. I mean, I have film on them and things like that, and we'll be able to look at that. And then, matter of fact, coaches have already broken down the whole season, every film we have on anybody. So
wow,
we're already ahead of that. I mean, that's what we use off season for too. So.
And Berlin, that's a new.
Yeah, we used to scrimmage Berlin, and I think we actually even played them a couple times, maybe under Jeff. I think we did that, but Berlin is another team that is a successful football program. With good coaching and lots of kids. So, we'll be able to match with them, but we're going to Berlin. I think it is.
You're going to Berlin. Yeah. And that's the sandwich game, like you said, between Fairfield, Ludlow, and Stanford. I noticed that Cheshire scrimmage is 9 a.m. That's early, isn't it, for a football?
Yeah.
I mean, Cheshire, they're going to have to leave Cheshire about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it'll probably end up being more like 10, to be honest with you.
It's just hot in August. You probably didn't want to have it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, it can be a long day, when you have 4 teams going. But
okay. That's the jamboree. Yeah.
If you try and,
Sure.
I didn't even ask Roger. I didn't know it was at 9. I thought it was at 10, so I better. Thank God.
That's good. And then you got hard-hitting New Britain back on the sketch. That's
we haven't played them since we played them at Granby.
Oh, that's the first game of the season.
When the turf was messed up 2 years ago.
Them. Yeah, 2021, right?
Yeah, they got themselves back together last year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's good. And then you got your buddies from Maloney. I'm not a big Maloney. I hope the coach isn't watching this. They're tough.
I think he'll be all right with it.
Yeah, I know. Him and the Southern coach.
They're buddies, and I like the way we play against Maloney. I've always thought we played him tough. We went there, we had a couple things didn't go our way for sure, and then I think we played him well last year too. So, it's just one of those teams.
They built a great program.
They've done a great job.
Yeah, and then Southern. Then you got Hull Connor at East Hartford and Glastonbury. Glastonbury much improved last year. Mm-hmm. Don't know how they look this year. But
I don't know either.
Yeah.
They got some new facilities. I know that.
Is that right?
Brand new, looks like to be stands and like field house stuff. They made us some good investments. I think, I don't know for sure, but without thinking about it, I think Glastonbury had an older team last year, like a senior led team. So I don't know what they have coming back, but that's the last game of the year. And that's the farthest from my brain right now. In terms of what we'll look at with them for sure.
Well, to talk about new facilities, we got some new facilities.
We do. I'm excited about it. I mean, it's been a little bit of a, it's hard to walk out of the football office every day and see the
no
progress.
Stands.
I mean, they did what they could. There's something to do with the actual stand part being delayed, not to anybody's issue, because they certainly want them ready for for fall. They would have loved to have them for the spring, and actually this is a project that has been, kind of hard to get off the ground, but it's actually, the good news is it's rolling now, and as much as anyone can control, it's on schedule. And then, it'll be nice to have an expanded press box that you can actually not fall,
get kicked over by a coach.
And then
your coach is up top will be in a safer spot.
Yeah, I mean that was not a good facility in terms of we are a much bigger program now. With not only do we have so many more kids, we have so many coaches, and there's a lot more. We got TVs, and we got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So it wasn't practical by any sense.
Dave, I think that's been there since 1968.
It's been there a long time.
Yeah,
and it's not. I mean, people are bigger too. That was a small space. Yeah. And then the stands aren't going higher; they're going, wider.
Wider. Good.
That's it'll be better. I don't think we're doing much to the other side yet, but that's another phase. So
right,
it's all in phases and carefully thought out. And thanks to Jeff and the town for getting that at least off the ground.
Yep, Jeff.
I think
Penny,
they're redoing
Matt Curtis.
Yeah, they're redoing the lighting too because it was pretty dark.
Mm-hmm.
You probably noticed that.
Yeah.
So
well, that'll be nice. Even if it's a little late, it's going to be there for a long time to come. So
it'll be fine. It'll get there, and there's no sense worrying about anything
because you really can't control it.
But doesn't matter to me. We're still going to play. So
Yep.
Okay,
good. Well, let's segue into the program moving forward a little bit. You got 26 seniors coming back.
Yeah, if that's what I told you. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, the roster's full. I think on the sophomore, junior, and senior roster, so JV varsity, there's 94. Like I go through the list. There's 94. I got 6 jerseys left, and then there's the freshmen, which at the freshman meeting there were 58 kids or 60 kids.
Wow!
So that's pretty big. That's a lot of kids. A lot of equipment to have in stock, and that's another issue too.
Yeah, you were telling John and I about that. Yeah.
I mean, you have. I think we have enough stuff, but you never know if you have the right size stock. Blah blah blah. So
sure,
but I think we're ready for that. I mean, that's exciting. That's a good problem to have.
It is.
Nowadays, that also impacts our schedule though too. One of the reasons, there's the 3 factors that go into the schedule is size of program, success of program, and size of school. We're a small school, but the other 2 we've been pretty fortunate to have go in our directions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do they take into account how many players are in the program? No, it's males.
No. There's 2 different categories. There's the school size, males in the school, and then there's the success of the program, and then the third category is how many kids are in your football program. And the higher your number up, the less likely you are to
know that. That's no other sport I don't think does that.
I don't know what. I can't figure out ours. I'm definitely not diving into how other sports.
You leave that up to the fellas.
That's something I can't control.
Yeah, CIAC.
Yeah. They're on the schedule. We'll play them and find out how to compete.
And I liked your freshman presentation that you gave to the freshman parents. Yeah, I went through it. It's pretty involved.
Yeah.
It's really nice. It gives them a feel for what they can expect.
Yeah.
Do the players attend that as well?
Yeah. Well, I do a separate program for the players,
them,
but it's very similar. They just don't need to know some of the stuff the parents need to know, and the parents don't need to know some of the stuff the kids.
Excellent.
So out of the 20 slides, I pick and choose. But
I see.
I'd like to give and present as much information as I can. I think that's one thing that we as coaches can do a good job of is making sure we communicate as much as possible. Helps solve a lot of problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nip it in the bud early on.
And stuff. Even after this time, there's still things like, I could have done that a little differently, but
So something we talked about, you and I, John Helmkamp, before the show is the 2-platoon system. Each player playing offense or defense, trying not to duplicate and play both.
So giving a kid, essentially the idea is this: we play teams that do that. That's a college. There's a linebacker in college isn't going and flipping sides and then going to play running back at that.
Sure.
So that allows coaching to happen when the other side of the ball is out there. It also allows more kids on the field. You know what I mean?
True.
You really have to
playing time,
and it allows us to develop more kids. You know what I mean? So the hurdles that you run into in running a 2-platoon system to start are: do you have enough players? Which we do. Do you have enough coaches? Which we do. So we made, looking back over there's a checklist of, can we do it? Well, we got to meet all these things. What are our potential hurdles? Oh, these could be our potential hurdles. So we are well over on the pro and con list, so to speak, of trying it. So we started the wheels going, and we've gone through the spring with it, and it's been very successful for us. A lot of kids like it, are responding well, gets more kids involved. And when you have 100 and whatever kids we have, I don't know what will be then, but when you have that many kids, you don't want a lot of kids standing around and caught behind not only one guy's position, but then two. So it does get more people involved in the actual practice. You're getting more out of practice individually.
Yep.
And then you play teams like Southington who have already done it.
Mm-hmm.
So Southington does it in essence. They play, by the time halftime rolls around, our guys have doubled the amount of reps that their guys have. So we've noticed over time, teams that we play that are two-platoon in the second half, we're pretty gassed.
Yep.
And that's where they usually get us.
That's a good point right there. That really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Is that if you got a guy going both sides at halftime, he's already played one game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's a
huge.
team that has it. So that's an advantage that I think we can, because of our size now, because of where we're at, because of the coaching staff, we can try and take an advantage of that. There will be things that are coming up, and we're ready for that. We don't know exactly how it's going to go. One of the things that we wanted to try this year, because we have a 2-year quarterback with Patrick as only a junior, we can lead in with that and, figure out some things that might take us. We're kind of going open with an open mind on this thing and really trying to look at all the angles, but we've committed to it. And so now we're going to, take it through.
That's
you can't
awesome.
flip-flop. Once you've commit to it, you can't really go back and say, oh, you know what, this isn't really working. So you're pushing the chips in, so to speak, and we think, we feel pretty good about it so far.
Oh, that's very interesting. The average person in the stands won't really notice.
Well, it's not typical high school, but where, you really do need numbers on both, coaches and players.
Just like you said, which you check those boxes. Yeah. And you got some good depth, you said, some nice young talent.
Yeah, we really do, and we feel strong about that. And that's one of the seeing kids two-platoon, it's really allowed us to kind of zone in on certain things. So, that's allowed us to see a lot of kids.
And you say you got some nice wide receivers.
Yep,
Patrick's
young
got a
talented.
Great arm.
Yep, young and talented.
With Christian Kylide working that offensive line by Patrick some time and throw that ball.
Yep.
That's awesome.
That's the magic. You got some big guys coming back, Kellen Wilson, that offensive line. I hope, I think, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to be able to string things together with Coach. Mm-hmm. And particularly because that's what they're working on. They're not going to the defensive line. And then, so I really feel like that's going to be a strength.
That's great. That's excellent, Dave. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good. That sounds good. And we'll do another show before the start of the season or after you get a couple games in.
Yeah, maybe 3 games in or something.
Yeah, it'll be fun to go do all that. Then the Trojan Gridiron Club, I just can't say enough good things about them.
No,
they're amazing.
Yeah, Liz is, and really
Liz
the whole
Butler,
crew. I went to the meeting the other day. They're efficient. They're professional about it.
They have meetings too.
Oh yeah, every month.
Every month.
I got a lot of meetings. So it's really because we have a staff meeting every month, and then we have there's all just kind of meetings. We're very but
that's
and
good.
then the Gridiron Club, and they do a great job. You know, there's lots of people on the Gridiron Club at this point. And they had a meeting this month, and they just plan everything out. And that Liz, of course, Liz and I have been together working. I mean, you really have to have a shared vision, and Liz is really. We connect on that.
Well, it's nice when you have 3 boys that are all unbelievable athletes, and now you got the youngest Shane, who's only a junior, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you got Liz for 2 more years. She's good, boy.
She's great.
Oh, you don't mess with Liz.
She gets stuff. She really has a goal, focus, and purpose, and she does what's best for kids and the football program.
That Gridiron Club, you got to love. How long has that been around?
No, I don't know.
I don't think a long. They never had that one like 20 years ago.
I don't know. They may have. I feel like it was there when I started.
It was?
Because I've been in Simsbury, what is that, 21 years? And I think there was, I don't know the levels and depths and changes, and it has to do with your leadership and what parents
Of course.
You know what I mean?
That's a well-oiled
Having
machine.
Liz since 2018 maybe has been a,
Yeah, Dan Girardi and
just like consistency.
John Helmkamp was president for a while, our buddy
Yep.
Johnny Helmkamp, two great players.
Yep.
So that's awesome. Then we got the golf tournament August 11th, Simsbury Farms. That's a great time.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the most fun tournament,
Yep.
most enjoyable tournament I played.
Yeah, I've had a lot of they set it as a Friday morning this year. I'm going to start. It's going to be great. We've had a lot of positive feedback about the start date being in the morning. People are able to take that off and do that. They like that. So we're looking forward to a great day.
Yep. If anybody wants to play, it's a fun day, and you spare no expenses with
it's great.
Breakfast. There's going to be lunch. You got drinks on the course.
Yep.
And a lot of great raffle prizes. I love you get so much nice gear there,
Yep.
and it's really nice. It's a fun time.
Yep.
And I heard you have a celebrity master of ceremonies lined up.
He's all right. Yeah.
I love doing that.
Yeah,
I
he's
got a couple of things to add.
Everyone
to
loves it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. Really enjoy it, Dave. It had been a year. I feel bad since our last show.
Well, we had to
April.
redo the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Look at this. It's something else. Bree and Patrick, and what a job these guys do at Simsbury Community Television. For anyone who doesn't know about this place, phenomenal. Down here in the basement of Memorial, it's just so good. And they have an incredible staff and equipment. It's come so far since I started covering this stuff 22 years ago. So, Coach Masters, how about a little wrap up with you before we do our Trojan Pride?
Yeah, I just think that we'll pretty much focus in and hone in on our summer stuff and try and give the kids. We ease back in July. We have very limited
Good
things that are even optional at this point, and so we'll let them. And they're ready to go. I don't need to fire anybody up. And then so they'll just focus on physically preparing. Coaches are ready, and we'll go. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Football season ends pretty abruptly, and then you spend the rest of the off season doing a lot of stuff, and you're just ready to go at this point.
And when is it? Is it August 14th is the CIAC start date? That's the first, and that's when you head to Kent, that first day. Wow. Have you done that before? No, not that early.
No.
Yeah.
Well, we're only in helmets at that time, too, so we don't have to bring a lot of stuff. We're trying it.
Oh, up at Kent, helmets only.
Mm-hmm.
Is that sanctioned by the state, the CIAC?
Yeah, well, you can't wear any pads until you have to have a certain amount of days in before you can have contact.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, so everyone's in the same level. You have to, it's conditioning, basically.
I see. That's good, because that's a hot time.
Yep. Oh, it's changed. Back in the day, we used to do like triple practices, and things are different now.
Yeah. We've all gotten a little softer.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
Bree, cut that out. No, I'm only kidding. Well, good, Dave. So this wraps up our first 2023 edition of Inside Trojan Football here at Simsbury Community Media. As a reminder, all past games and our coaches' shows can be viewed on demand online at www.simsburytv.org, or also by going to YouTube, type in Simsbury Football or Inside Trojan Football, and you'll get a run. All of our stuff is up there, mixed in with University of Southern California, USC Trojan Football. So we're in good company.
Oh, yeah.
Dave. It's
Sometimes
one of our shows, and then the USC Trojans, and
you can catch up on both.
Beat it. Hey, big shout out to Patrick and Bree, who make this station run and buzz, as well as the board of directors for Simsbury Community Media. Great group of people who volunteer their time to support our wonderful station. So, Coach Masters, have enjoyed it a ton. This handsome guy coached both my boys in baseball when he used to coach baseball and basketball. And no parent will ever be disappointed having this guy and his staff help your young man become a man. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks, Raj. That's why I come and do this show, so you can give me some positivity.
Love you, bro. Trojan Pride.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.